Dark Souls 2 gets a lot of criticism for various aspects, and one of them is the healing system. The combination of Estus and Lifegems is the most unique approach in the entire series, maybe even the entire Soulsborne family of games. However, I would argue that it's actually one of the most interesting and best ways to approach healing in a Dark Souls game, and I will try to outline why that is. Firstly, let's go over how the systems work in the three main games. In Dark Souls 1, the Estus flask is your primary method of healing, because the charges are replenished when resting at a bonfire. Using the flask will lock your character into an animation, during which you cannot move. You will regain a significant amount of HP at a rapid rate, soon after pressing the button. You can drink more than one time in rapid succession, cutting out the pull out and put away portions of the movement. You can increase the healing power by finding Firekeeper souls and asking a Firekeeper to bolster the flask using those souls. You can also consume them to get some souls and humanity, but as you may imagine, this is ill-advised since there is a limited number of them in any new game cycle, and using them to strengthen the flask is permanent. The amount of flasks you can use between resting at bonfires depends on the intensity of the bonfire you rest at. It can be anywhere between 5 and 20 charges in multiples of 5. You can kindle bonfires by consuming soft humanity, which will permanently increase the intensity level by 1, and each level increases the amount of charges you get by 5. There are other items you can use to heal. For example, consuming hard humanity will also give you a significant health boost. But when they are used, you will permanently lose them from your inventory, regardless if you rest or die. Therefore, you might want to save those for when you are low on Estus, but must desperately reach a bonfire. Humanity is a scarce resource, but it's not hard limited during a playthrough, so you might decide to farm for them. Overall, this system is decent. Every healing option requires some commitment due to the animation, and also losing some resource. The Estus Flask regains charges over the course of gameplay, so you will never run out, even if you're dying over and over again. The other option means you permanently lose this one charge, and you will have to collect more to get it back. Therefore, it is not suitable to be your first resort. You can also heal using some miracles, which are much slower to cast than Estus is to drink. They also have limited uses for each copy of the spells you have attuned, and those charges also refill when resting. The sequel shakes things up in many ways. First of all, the Estus Flask starts off with one charge. You can find shards to increase this amount, and it caps out at 12. The number of charges is independent of bonfire states, and is only affected by the shards you collect. Sublime Bone Dust will increase the flask's healing power. Drinking also behaves differently. Firstly, the animation is much longer. Secondly, the rate of healing is shockingly slow compared to the previous game. This makes the flask much less effective. However, there are more ways to regain health. Life gems, most prominently. They act a bit like humanity, in that you lose them permanently when they're consumed. They heal you even slower, but you don't need to completely stop moving to use them. There's 3 different types, and they only differ by how much total health you regain. You can hold 99 of each type at any given time. However, you can only buy an unlimited amount of the weakest type, and the stronger ones must be farmed if you run out of them in the world. The merchant who sells them is in Majula, so if you want to buy more, you will have to rest at a bonfire to warp anyway. Miracles work the same way as previously. Dark Souls 3 gets rid of life gems and only brings back Estus, which is similar to Upgrade as previously, in that you collect items around the world to upgrade the charges and power. However, there is a new twist. This game introduces focus points. which are used to cast spells, including miracles. This is your limitation on how many you can cast. You can recover FP by drinking from your Ashen Estus flask, which shares from the total amount of charges, with the regular Healing Estus flask. You can choose how many you want of each, but each charge in your blue flask is one less charge in the yellow one, and vice versa. Using an Estus shard will increase the total amount of charges you can have between both of them. Let's recap the mechanical comparison between Estus and Lifegems then, and look over their strengths and weaknesses. The Estus flask is recovered when resting at a bonfire, and it heals you faster than Lifegems. It also forces you to completely stop during its animation, and you can only hold a game-wide maximum of 12 or less before you've found all the shards. Lifegems are permanently consumed, and they let you move slowly during the use animation. You can also hold as many as 297 at most. However, their healing rate is mind-numbingly slow, and it's the same for all three types. So, on paper, we've got a nuanced decision when we want to heal, as neither option is absolute, and they both have their strengths and drawbacks. Detractors of this healing system often point out that you can have 99 of each Lifegem type, and you can buy an unlimited amount of the weakest variant from the merchant in Majula. In theory, I agree that this amount is excessive, and an amount like 10 of each would be more reasonable. But that's about the only problem, in my opinion. Everything else about the Estus Lifegem duality is good. It works. I will explain why. Firstly, the amount of Lifegems you can buy is not actually unlimited. You are limited by how many souls you have. Each Lifegem costs 300 souls apiece. This means that, early game, buying 3 or 4 will cost you the same amount as one character level. 300 souls is not much, but this cost will quickly add up if you're using them willy-nilly. Popping a Lifegem might make a section of the game easier one time, but leveling up will permanently strengthen your character and also make the entire game easier. Furthermore, you will be earning more souls as you go through the game, so you'd think the effective price is decreased, but your health bar will also be getting only higher, and Lifegems heal you at a flat rate. So you'd also need to use more Lifegems to heal fully, and consequently buy more. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Whenever you're using a Lifegem, you will permanently have 300 souls less for the duration of the playthrough, unless you specifically grind for souls. Every time you use one, you will quickly run out of souls if you use Lifegems as your primary healing method. Therefore, combined with their use properties, they are better used as a supplementary method, much like humanity. Estus is still probably your better and more practical option, since it heals faster and you will never run out of it, in the grand scheme of things. The Lifegems, then, are relegated to a second resort, where effectively spending 300 souls will make a difference. When you're out of Estus and carrying the souls of a miniboss to a bonfire, which you would lose if you died, or to top off before a boss if you want to save the Estus for the fight itself, or if you, for whatever reason, cannot afford to completely stop moving. That's how I end up using them in my games, and I think that's how the developers intended for the game to encourage us to play. It's almost genius, really, how they've created two different healing methods for different purposes, and altered how they work to encourage you to use them in different situations. I've seen a lot of hate for this mechanic, and people rarely explain why they dislike this. Usually they just say something like, What were they thinking? As if it was evident, or as if they just accept the Dark Souls 1 mechanics as universally perfect, and anything that's different is bad because it's different. The only specific argument against them I've heard is that having 99 of the basic life gems at any time is excessive. And I agree, but these life gems didn't just appear in your inventory. If you have 99 life gems, you must have either found them while exploring or bought them for 29,700 souls. I'm not considering farming scenarios because many systems of all three games really break down when people do this. It's just not something I think the developers designed the game in mind with. In summary, we've got a nuanced healing system here with two main options, each of them having distinct properties, upsides and downsides. The choice is never obvious, and you must always make the decision on which to use based on the circumstances. The inner hoarder in me winces a little every time I use one, knowing that I've just spent 300 souls. But I know that this might save me more if I get to the bonfire alive. That's how I use life gems personally. When I've got a lot of souls and need to make it to a bonfire, but I'm out of Estus. Anyway, I'm open to discussion on what healing system from the Soulsborne games is the best, and why. I'm not here to force my will on everyone else, I just wanted to share my viewpoint, and why I think the Dark Souls 2 healing is the most interesting healing mechanically.